So one tool you might not be thinking of that you need when you're under the house is a stick. I recommend one about that long, and you'll see why. Come on, let's go. Hey guys, so it's been years since I've done home repair and improvement. Professionally, remodeling, all that stuff's way behind me, and a lot has changed since then. Back then, if you wanted to do plumbing repairs and you had copper, that involved flames. You had to get a torch and melt the solder, and it was nasty, and you risked burning down a house. You really had to know what you were doing. Not anymore. Not anymore. Anyone can do copper. Copper is now easier than PVC, which is ridiculous. You can have a 12-year-old do your plumbing repairs now. I love you plumbers, but you don't really need a plumber anymore for most repairs around the house. You got a leak, anything, you can fix it. I'm going to show you how I repaired 2 exterior spigots, water hose spigots on my house that have been leaking for God knows how long. I finally got around to fixing them. I forgot SharkBite even exists. SharkBite's the way to go. There's competitors of SharkBite. I've never used it. I'm using SharkBite. Tune in. Watch how ridiculously, insanely, stupidly, crazy easy this is. Okay, first thing you got to do is turn off water to your entire house. And to do that, you have to find your water meter. It's probably in your front yard. And some houses it might even be in an access in the driveway. And this one, it's in the yard, over here. Probably gonna want gloves. Usually it's nasty. Gonna be a hole or some way to get the thing off, lid off. Down in here, might be bugs, worms, whatever. Your water meter, that's the turn off. Sometimes this is gonna be completely filled with mud. You're gonna have to dig it out. You're not gonna be able to turn this by hand. Thus my handy dandy tool. You can actually buy a specialized tool at the hardware store to turn your water off. I don't want to spend extra money for that. So there, water's off. You can see it's not spinning anymore. No water's going into the house. Now I can safely cut pipes without causing a wreck. So these are the supplies we're going to use. This is a SharkBite 1/2 inch to 1/2 inch coupler. This is a hose bib. That's what your hose actually screws onto. Has a 1/2 inch connector in the back. You can get different styles. This one is a 1/4 turn, so that's all you gotta do to turn it completely on and completely off. They have the traditional ones you've got to spin a few times. I'm lazy. I wanted the 1/4 turn. Gonna need a small segment of copper tubing. So I'm gonna cut this to fit. Use my vise just because I want to be able to use both hands. This is a tube cutter. 10 bucks at any hardware store. Real simple. Slip it over the tube, the copper, get it a little snug. Rotate a few times. You'll feel it get looser. Tighten it a little more. After it's gotten looser, tighten it a little more. Eventually it'll just pop off. Ta-da! This is the offending spigot. No matter what, it leaks, so we're gonna remove it, put on the new one, SharkBite. No soldering required. So one tool you might not be thinking of that you need when you're under the house is a stick. I recommend one about that long, and you'll see why. Come on, let's go. Okay. So this is the inside of the outside spigot. This is where the copper pipe comes in. We want to leave enough for the SharkBite coupler to connect right here, right? So we don't want to cut it way back here. We're going to cut it right about here as best we can. Just like we did earlier. Now the water you're seeing come through is just the water that's in the pipe from here to the spigot outside. Perfectly okay, perfectly acceptable. So this is the piece we cut out from underneath the house. I'm going to bring it up here. Not even going to bother measuring with a tape measure. We're just going to, judging by the length of this and how big the fitting is, we can figure out where we need to cut our copper tubing. So we're going to leave a little bit of space at the end. There we go. Get a good idea where to cut that. And remember, you can cut it shorter, but you can't cut it longer. So if you're going to make an error on cutting your tube too long. Two ways to deburr it. You got to deburr it. There's little pieces of metal around the edges that are going to mess up your fitting. The old-fashioned way is with a file. Whatever. We have this fancy tool that SharkBite actually sells. Stick it in there and turn it like you're sharpening a pencil. Easy peasy. Okay. We have our spigot. We have our pipe. Very simple. SharkBite goes in the hole. You push. Hear a click. It's good to go. Slide it back in the hole. So now we have our coupler. We're going to slide it onto the inside first. Doesn't really matter what order you do it in, but I'm going to slide on the inside first, and then we're going to push from the outside to make the fitting snap. There we go. Oh, not quite. There. You'll feel a snap, and it'll feel nice and square when it's on there good. Now for the outside, we're going to line it up, get it in there. Then we're going to push from the outside to make the fitting. And he's outside pushing as hard as he can to make it snap into place. That's all bad. So we're going to replace it. I've already removed the siding and the drywall, the insulation. We're going to put a coupling here, an elbow here, and a new spigot on. Now, if you're thinking, why don't you just replace the washer and the seat and the spigot? The spigot is so old that the screw is completely broken off, so I'm just going to replace it. And when you do this, you want to put the elbow, everything together outside that you can before you start in here, before you put anything in here. So you're going to have the whole setup, and then you're going to snap it into place. And this was really important back when we were soldering everything. We're not soldering anything today. It's all snap fittings, but the SharkBite stuff. But still, we want to put it together outside of the wall. So when it's all together, we just snap it on. One thing to do over here. All right, so this is the stuff we're buying, SharkBite. That's what it looks like at the store. That's actually just hanging on the bit. These pieces are in little plastic baggies. Help you find it in the store. So before we get started, I said we're going to put the stuff together outside of the wall. This is why. So you can kind of map it out. This is how it's going to look. SharkBite stuff is ridiculously easy. Stick it in there. And that's it. Right? That's ready to go. In the old days, we'd be with a torch and solder melting all these pieces together. Now, just snap in. Good to go. So here's the problem we're going to have, and you may have these issues. A tubing cutter won't clear this plywood, and that plywood is a built-in bookshelf on the other side of the wall. So I'm going to cut 3/4 around, like I normally would. Then I'm going to spin the tool around and do it again, so I can get all the way around the pipe. Now, an alternative method would be a hacksaw. Put the blade back in the same groove, and that's going to give me the rest of the cut. May have to go back and forth a couple times. That's all the way through on that side. Ta-da! And take this to your local metal recycling place with our handy dandy SharkBite provided deburring tool. And when we were soldering things, this was a challenging part because this pipe is completely full of water, and to get that, you'd have to empty out the water best you can, and then to get that hot enough to melt the solder was a challenge. Glad I don't do this for a living anymore. And this is why you put it together out there and not here, because if we were snapping all this together, especially if we were soldering it all together in this wall, you don't have the space. We did all this stuff out there. Now all I gotta do is snap it on. We're good to go. That's it. Okay, so we have everything put in. You just saw that. Now the next part is you want someone over there watching when you turn the water on to make sure that when the water's turned on, you don't have water spraying everywhere. We just did that, but so I know there's not gonna be leaks. So Noah, turn the water on. He's so strong. Look at those muscles. Sorry. This is why it's good to have a teenage son. You let them do the hard work. You just stand around with a camera and make fun of them. Let's go see how we're doing. Now, I love nature. I love beautiful things, but let me tell you something. When you've had a leak in your wall and you haven't been able to use your water hose properly, that's a thing of beauty. All right, guys, I hope this helped you guys out. If it did, like, subscribe, share, comment. The sharing's a big deal. Put this on your face space, whatever, and check this out. This is why I went with the quarter turn. That's all it takes to turn it on. Instead of going, yeah. Anyway, love you guys, bye.